guys, welcome back to my videos. In this tutorial we are going to talk about promises, um, so what is a promise, why do we use it, why they exist, what has more instead of callbacks, what is the syntax of promises, what is the failure, and what is the response in case of failure, chaining, and custom promises. So here we have an example of how JavaScript would work without the promises. So it's just using callbacks. We have a function here that is using another function as callback, which is declaring another function, which is getting the parameters from the previous function and is getting another function as callback, which is declaring another function, which is accepting the parameters of the previous function. Then it makes the last callback, and then there is the last function. So we have one function, 3 callbacks, and for each callback we have a failure callback. That's a lot of headache. That's a lot of headache for a not so complicated logic. So of course the JavaScript team or whoever, they invented something different, and here is the different code. Here we have the same code, the same logic expressed with promises, which I didn't say it. Promises is like a representation of a statement that the browser gives to us. This is a definition. Anyway, we have this function. Once the function has completed to be executed, is completely executed, the then that means after will be triggered. So this other function, which now is written like this, but to be clear, this is this. If you didn't understand, this is this. Okay, this is this then function. It triggers another function, then that returns statement that returns values. Once that return, in this case, order. Once this function has completed, the parameters, the values of order, will get taken inside the next function, which will be executed and return other values with another, and these other values will then be used in the next values, in the next then statement. And then in case something went wrong in any of these, we have one only failure callback. This is how it works, and as you see, is much more simpler, and you can write it like this, or I created an arrow function that maybe is a little confusing, but it actually makes the code even more tiny if you use it, because as you see, is really little the amount of space that we use to implement the same logic that we implemented with this this quite headache code. Okay, so yes, this is it for about the syntax of promises. Here is another example that is about the fetch method. That is good to have a look. Okay, so we are fetching an image and display the image. Of course, there are better methods to display image on the screen. This is not the point. The point is to use the fetch method. So now let's see that flower. Okay, here is the flower, etc., etc. So it fetches the flower and displays it on the screen. Okay, so what is the syntax? Fetch, we already saw what it does. So we are fetching the flower.jpg, and let's see. Okay, fetch accept an input that is a request information or an URL. In this case, we are using a URL or a request information. The input is something that you must give to fetch. In fact, we have input, blah, blah, blah. And then we have init, which is optional. In fact, here you say init question mark, so is an optional parameter. And in fact, it says request init or undefined, because we can even not put it, and it will give us, this is how you can read these little brackets, colon promise. So it's giving us a promise that is called the response. So after the fetching, we use then, as you already saw, then gives it gets executed after the previous statement is done. So then a response function, then a response function with the parameters of before. If response isn't okay, we are going to throw an error, HTTP error, and we will display the error status. This we didn't see what does it mean to throw errors, but so it doesn't really matter. It's out of our topic, but still interesting and I think understandable. But then else return response.blob, binary large object. So we have taken our response, and then we have returned our response in a binary large object, so that our blob, so this parameter now, our blob, is declared here. We can call it whatever we want, but I call it the blob because it's a blob. We got this blob. We created an URL with this blob, and we saved it in object URL. We created another variable, and we created an element image. Inside the image, inside the source image, the source subclasses of image, we have put in our object URL, which was the URL of our flower, and then we appended the child. So and last we appended the image element into the document body. Okay, and this is how it works. Last, we have a catch error. So in case something went wrong, problem during operation, error message plus error, because here you can call it how you want, but the convention is to call it error, something like this, and then error.message will display what it was the message on in the logs. Okay, so we have seen another example with fetch, and now we will have a look at how to create customs promises. Okay, so here we have our example. I struggled a little to find an example that could really be explanatory. So we have our variable, my promise, which is assigned to a new promise. New promise is an object, and that can accept can accept two parameters. It can succeed or it can fail. So it accepts these two parameters, resolve or reject. Generally, they are called resolve or reject. Me, I called it my resolve, my reject. And so we have our function, new promise. New promise actually is an object. Anyway, there is this function, my resolve, my reject. It can succeed or fail. In case it succeed, my resolve will be triggered. In case it fails, my reject will be executed, and there could be a catch error, but I didn't implement it. But anyway, then we have a set timeout function. Function my resolve. So in case it resolve, I love you, blah blah blah. After 3 seconds. My reject is not specified, so actually we are not catching the error in this case. We could catch the error, but anyway. Then, since it's a promise, we have to once we have to execute the function, no? And so we are the then statement must be present, so to say, after you loaded this functionality, then you execute the function with the parameter value, and that it will trigger document.get element ID. I created a P upstairs, and so it will inject this inside our JavaScript. Okay, and as you see, okay, so this is it. More or less for a custom promise. Remember that once you create a custom promise, fetch is a built-in promise, no? The promise is built-in. Here we are creating an object that accept resolve and reject, and then you create the function that you want. So here in this body there can be anything. I created a timeout that executes a function, and after 3 seconds, and after, when now I declare this variable, after a then statement must be present, because we are working in a promise, so in an asynchronous context. So we must use then and catch. Then will catch the values that are stored inside my resolve, and catch would be doing what catch will be doing what is in my reject. Quite simple. This is it for promises, and this isn't it for everything about asynchronous, because it exists even async and await, which will be the topic of the next video. So thank you very much for watching. In the next video we will see another feature that is even more recent than this. Bye bye.